Welcome to Midlife Initiation. I'm David Evans, coming to you today from my office, strangely enough. So I've got some space in my day. I had a client reschedule, and today we're going to get a little more subtle. So last time we did the hero mask, and I got feedback from some folks that they couldn't see the suffering in the hero mask, that they could see the suffering it caused, but not the self-inflicted suffering. So we're even going to get subtler today. And this chapter, again, an excerpt from my upcoming book, Midlife Initiation, Six Paths of Separation, Six Paths to Freedom. And this chapter is entitled The God Avoids Pain at All Costs. God Fable, told by me, Elliot. If you asked anyone in Los Gatos who's really putting their money where their values are, they'd probably say me, and they'd be right. I'm on a mission to heal the planet. I built my wealth investing in renewable energy startups before it was fashionable. I was early on solar, early on carbon capture, and I exited just the right moment. Twice. I run a $600 million impact fund. We don't touch fossil fuels. We don't greenwash. We actually move the needle. My personal life is in alignment. I drive a Lotus Evija, live in a fully off-grid estate with a net zero footprint, and only invest in stocks that promise to save the planet. I've been on the cover of Fast Company and Mindful Capitalist. I donate to climate research, fund coral reef generation in Bali, and I once gave a TED talk that opened with a drone shot of me meditating at sunrise on a glacier. But that's not the full picture. That's the part I let you see, myself see. What I didn't see, what took me decades to see, was that my whole life was engineered to avoid pain, real pain. The kind you can't solve by wiring a donation or chartering a jet to your next transformational retreat. I grew up with every advantage: white, male, private school, early access to Apple stock, Stanford undergrad, Harvard MBA. I told myself I'd worked for it all, and I did. What I didn't notice were the tailwinds because they were always at my back. I got rich, very rich, and I curated my life accordingly. My calendar was a masterpiece of refined experiences. Sourcing $5,000 bottles for the cellar in Napa, Thursday tastings at the French Laundry, partying with models, spiritual retreats in Big Sur, the purest MDMA to fuel 12-hour neo-tantric sex. I once flew to Bhutan just to have tea with a consciousness shaman. My friends called it Elliot's pilgrimage to himself. At 50, a friend from Esalen nudged me towards ayahuasca. I resisted, not because I was scared, but because I'd already arrived. I had a spiritual advisor, a guru who guided tech CEOs and wore hand-woven alpaca robes. What else was there? But I did the mother anyway, because what else was there? During the first ceremony, I started feeling other people's energy, really feeling it. Not in the abstract, not as compassion, but as a kind of nauseating flood. I could feel the desperation of people I'd fired, the loneliness of women I'd ghosted, the ache of my ex-wife when she realized I loved the paintings I'd hung above our bed of her naked when she was 27 more than I loved her. I came home and started cutting people off, not out of spite, but out of sensitivity. I couldn't be near anyone who gave me bad vibes. Old friends, my team, my teenagers, I disowned them all. To be continued. Debriefing the God. As you read or listen to Elliot's story, what did you feel? Admiration, envy, discomfort? What parts of yourself did you see in him? The way he curated a life of beauty, refinement, and meaning. Or maybe you caught a flicker of something else beneath the glow. Maybe avoidance, maybe a longing for something real. The God mask is the most seductive of them all, and often the hardest to detect. Elliot wasn't a terrible person, which adds to the difficulty of seeing suffering in the God ego structure. Elliot was doing good in the world. This was quite reasonably being positively reinforced by the people around him. He helped fund, his fund helped the planet. His choices, at least on the surface, were altruistic and ethical. And yet, beneath the giving, the glow, the glacier top meditations, there was something missing. A heart carefully curated to appear open, but terrified to feel fully. This is the shadow of the God mask, a distortion of the heart center, where true openness is replaced with performative transcendence, where curated beauty takes the place of raw emotion, where pain is treated as an unwelcome part of the human experience, a problem to cleanse, vibe out, or outsource to someone less evolved. This is known as emotional overriding. You're so driven by heart-based impulses, say craving love or affirmation, that you lose balance. Here, knowing about the three brains can remind you that the heart, while wise, also needs the guidance of the head and the stability of the gut. The heart's little brain can sometimes get hung up on its own feedback loops. Consider how anxiety can cause a racing heart, which then causes more anxious feelings in the brain. The God mask reflects the superiority complex of the heart, placing yourself above others emotionally as though untouchable or beyond vulnerability. The God path is such a tricky one because it looks like presence, it sounds like love, and it even feels good to be around at first. But underneath all the bliss and light, it's still a shield. In the God mask, you're intoxicated with bliss, avoiding lower vibrations or negative emotions. It's the high of spiritual bypassing, the superiority of light without shadow. It feels refined, floaty, soft, and heart-centered, but it's actually a defense against the full spectrum of human emotion. This emotional bypassing might mean missing crucial signals from the gut brain. That churning feeling, the gut feeling, is a vital part of our inner compass. The God ego isn't really about love. It's about selective love. Happiness, peace, and ecstasy are allowed. Sadness, rage, and grief, too heavy, too messy, too human. In God mode, we seek to maintain a state of heart-centered transcendence, but this is a curated experience. True heart coherence, where the heart's rhythms are balanced and calming, requires an honest acknowledgement of all emotions, not just the higher vibrations. Constantly striving for bliss puts the heart in a state of incoherence, which can affect the brain's emotional processing centers and lead to an inability to genuinely connect. This pattern often shows up in places and people that pride themselves on elevation, where specialness is currency. Places like San Francisco, spiritual circles, New Age communities. Let's be honest. Have you ever caught yourself spiritualizing your superiority? I know I have. I'm just really sensitive to energy. I need to protect my inner peace. I'm different, special. I'm here for a divine purpose. I'm holding space, not engaging in the drama. What if those are walls, not wisdom? Notice the separation these thoughts create. The whole identity is built around being above it all. That's why, in its distortion, the God ego structure often infantilizes or dismisses others' suffering. Someone's struggling, it's their karma. Someone's angry, they're just not as evolved. Conflict, that's too low vibe. Don't harsh my mellow, man. It's pleasure without presence. Like Elliot, most people stuck in this pattern are literally intoxicated with refined pleasure. Whether it's spiritual highs, gourmet feasting, designer drugs, or curated aesthetic experiences, everything is elevated. Everything is better. Even their suffering is better, more subtle, more sacred. They speak in cosmic metaphors, preach the law of attraction, talk about vibrating at a higher frequency, and truly believe they are living above the mess of the human condition. While pleasure isn't inherently bad, the constant pursuit of it is as a way to avoid lower emotions can disrupt the body's natural neurotransmitter balance. For example, the gut produces most of the body's serotonin. Relying on external stimuli to feel good can disconnect you from this natural internal source of well-being. God mode avoids discomfort at all costs. The shadow of illness, death, limitation, these are pushed away with mantras, crystals, and expensive wellness routines. You fear the mundane. You fear being ordinary. You don't want to be accountable. You want to float, and you float in style. Food is about purity and refinement. Plant-based may be raw or meticulously crafted. If you drink, it's the best mezcal from Oaxaca. There's an obsession with quality, but it's not grounded. It's about distinguishing yourself, showing how elevated your taste and lifestyle have become. You may meditate, but not to wake up, just to bliss out, to drift further into the sense that you are not like other people. And if there's a claim to enlightenment, it's often self-liberation. I did it all myself. I hold space for others. I'm not reactive anymore. But there's a hollowness there, a refusal to admit when you're wrong, a deep inability to say, I'm sorry, I messed up. This path isn't always narcissistic in obvious ways. Subtle superiority is another version of narcissism. Smile a lot, shine, attract followers, students, clients, fans, people who project power onto you, the spiritual performer, the charlatan without substance. The God mask teaches you to curate and elevate, but it doesn't teach you how to relate. And that's the wound. People on this path often have countless followers, admirers, even lovers, but very few equals, very few mirrors, and no true friends. Ask yourself, do you float above pain with language that sounds spiritual but is evasive? Do you overvalue harmony at the expense of honesty? Do you surround yourself only with people who reflect your mask back to you? Are you addicted to beauty, bliss, or refinement in a way that avoids discomfort? Do you fear being ordinary? These questions aren't meant to dismantle your joy or passion for beauty. They're meant to help you locate where your radiance has become armor, where your curated identity might be shielding you from deeper intimacy with others, with nature, with your own full emotional truth. So you can see the lack of fullness in a life that seeks to avoid pain at all costs. Let's get even subtler. What if attachment to verbal concepts is a form of suffering in and of itself? Let's walk the genius path. And we'll do that next time with the Genius Mask Fable. Thanks for joining me.